His Excellency Seta Tawi Sin, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Police Colonel Tawi Sotsong, Minister of Justice, Madam Chair Pompapai Ganjanarin of the National Human Rights Commission of Thailand, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elizabeth Andersen, and I'm the Executive Director of the World Justice Project, an international nonprofit organization working with stakeholders across the globe to strengthen the rule of law. Thank you for the tremendous honor of this opportunity to address this important forum. Your gathering today underscores the importance of the rule of law and the commitment of diverse stakeholders in Thailand to strengthening the rule of law as an essential foundation of successful communities. It is a privilege to share with you some brief findings from WJP's work on the rule of law around the world. One of WJP's distinctive contributions to the global rule of law movement is the WJP Rule of Law Index, an annual study of the rule of law now covering 142 countries. The focus of the index is not just what laws and institutions are in place, but how are they working in practice? How do they affect people in their everyday lives? Annually, we gather and analyze data about the rule of law in practice by conducting surveys of legal practitioners and experts. We combine this data with household surveys and third-party sources using rigorous statistical methods to generate scores and rankings for each country or jurisdiction on 44 different dimensions of the rule of law. This data enables stakeholders to get a detailed picture of different aspects of the rule of law. For example, the functioning of different checks on executive authority, levels of corruption in different parts of government, the accessibility and openness of government decision-making, the effectiveness and efficiency of regulatory activity, the respect for fundamental rights, or the functioning of the civil and criminal justice systems. The Rule of Law Index has become the leading source of original rule of law data globally, and it is relied upon by governments, international organizations, private sector investors, the media, civil society, and academics eager to understand the strengths and weaknesses of governance in different countries. You can see in this slide some of the diverse institutions and actors that use the Rule of Law Index. The data provide a globally comparable and reliable set of indicators that these stakeholders use to diagnose rule of law challenges, identify solutions, and measure progress over time. The WJP Rule of Law Index also enables us to see how important the rule of law is, as we can see compelling correlations between the rule of law as measured by the index and other outcomes we value. For example, countries with greater rule of law enjoy greater GDP per capita, better health outcomes, more years in school for children, and more peace. This data validates your convening today. It makes clear the importance of the work that you gather to undertake to strengthen the rule of law. Unfortunately, the latest WJP Rule of Law Index, published in October, shows the continuation of a worrying trend of widespread declines in the rule of law. This year, these declines affect 6 billion people. Countries with declining rule of law this year are shown in red here on this slide, those improving in blue. For 6 years in a row, we have seen a majority of countries with declining rule of law, shown in this slide with the percentage of declining countries in red, those improving in blue. The index measures of constraints on government powers, fundamental rights, the functioning of justice systems have seen the widest and steepest declines. We have seen these negative trends in every region of the world, including in the Asia-Pacific region. And yet, we have also seen that progress is possible. Countries as diverse as Uzbekistan, Moldova, Zimbabwe, Kazakhstan, and Malaysia have bucked the negative global tide and marked significant rule of law progress in the index in recent years. Urgent action is needed to reverse the negative global rule of law trends. And your forum today is exemplary of the kind of action that needs to be taken. The work of WJP and others to strengthen the rule of law around the world points to several key elements of success. First, leadership support of rule of law reform is critically important. So let me commend the leadership evidenced by the Prime Minister and the Justice Minister in joining this forum today. Second, to turn the leadership's commitment into concrete change, it is important to have in place a clear strategic plan with time-bound and measurable performance indicators and mechanisms of accountability for progress. This should be guided by a rigorous, evidence-based approach to establish a baseline now and benchmark progress at a specific time in the future. Using metrics such as the WJP index to identify areas for needed improvement, to measure progress over time, and to hold policymakers accountable helps ensure meaningful change. To illustrate, looking at the index data for Thailand, you can see areas where Thailand's score has improved markedly in recent years, for example, in the enforcement of civil judgments. And you can take action to build on and reinforce those positive trends. You can also identify areas where Thailand performs less well than regional peers, for example, with respect to open government, including the public availability of laws and government data. And you can identify best practices that can be pursued to have a near-term positive impact on the rule of law. A third important lesson from efforts to strengthen the rule of law around the world is that no one institution or actor can guarantee rule of law progress. Building the rule of law is a whole of society project, requiring ownership, expertise, and input from diverse stakeholders in and out of government. Other jurisdictions have seen success with multi-sectoral collaborations in the form of task forces that can bring together diverse actors across government and in civil society and the private sector, get them to agree on priorities and map out a reform agenda, and then measure progress and revise strategies over time. Finally, rule of law progress is a long-term project. Rarely do we see countries making progress in the rule of law index year over year. Even those countries that do make continuous progress find it often frustratingly incremental and slow. And even the countries with the strongest rule of law have areas of weakness and periodic backsliding. Strengthening the rule of law is a never-ending project, requiring sustained leadership and a learning mindset among diverse, committed stakeholders, eager to learn from the data about what needs to be done and continuously evaluating progress and refining strategies. The World Justice Project is eager to support your efforts and to be a knowledge partner as the strategy and plans to improve the rule of law in Thailand are being developed. WJP has been pleased to engage with various Thai government agencies, the Thailand Institute of Justice, and other stakeholders in the past few years. I congratulate the Minister of Justice for prioritizing the comprehensive law and regulation reform under the Guillotine Project. I thank Madam Chair of the National Human Rights Commission for her leadership in working with WJP to spearhead the Southeast Asia Human Rights Dashboard together with Suakan, the Malaysian Human Rights Commission. With this new tool that we are developing together, we will soon be able to use the WJP Rule of Law Index research to measure human rights progress in Thailand, an exemplary practice that we hope others will adopt as well. There are also a number of other ongoing initiatives. It is clear that to improve the rule of law in Thailand, we are not starting from scratch. This is why I am particularly delighted that this forum is being convened to make these efforts more concerted and outcome-oriented. This is an important development that should lead to more progress. Let me conclude then with my enthusiastic support for your convening this forum in support of rule of law progress in Thailand. WJP is proud to be your knowledge partner in these efforts. We thank you again for the honor of this opportunity to address your meeting. Thank you for your commitment to the rule of law, and I wish you success in your deliberations today.